Hello, welcome to this FCPX tutorial. In this tutorial, I am going to show you how to create your intro, 3D intro, to create a 3D intro in FCPX, and then turn that 3D intro into a logo that you could sort of put in the corner of your screen, you know, in the corner of your timeline down here. Sorry, in the corner of your video sort of preview, so that you could use as branding for yourself, for your videos, whatever it is you want to do. I've done it in Motion before, and I'm going to show you how to do it in FCPX, and it's also going to be 3D. So let's get on and do that. So I'm just going to use a still image that is going to be my video, shall we say. So I'm just going to make it a minute long as well. I'm just going to drag the timeline out. So all I've done is created a new project, and I've dragged this still image, and now you can just imagine this is a video sort of clip that you've dragged into your timeline. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my text over here, and I'm going to find 3D Basic. You could even have Custom 3D. Let's find 3D Basic. Let's have 3D Basic. You could have Custom 3D. I'm just going to use Basic 3D, and I'm going to drag this into my timeline also to the start, and I am going to drag it out to be a minute long, the same as my video clip, because I want my Basic 3D. Remember, I'm going to turn it from an intro as it is now, or as it will be, into a logo that sort of comes to the corner of my screen, or wherever you want it to go on your screen, but made much smaller, and go to somewhere to brand my video. So just to do that, just so we haven't got this background, I'm just going to highlight this this image timeline and press V, and that will disable that background or disable that clip. And if I sort of right clicked on it, you could just go enable or disable with V right there. So let's work on this Basic 3D right here. So I've got it highlighted in my timeline, and everything that I'm going to do, I am going to do in my inspector over here. So first thing at the top here, I'm going to want to look at my title. Now in the title, if I drag my timeline to the start and play it through, you'll notice it already comes in a certain sequence, and likewise it will go out in a certain sequence also. So if I'm playing it through, so we could change these sequences if we wanted to. We could change them manually, or we could change them with the presets that are here. So all I'm gonna want it to do, I want it to tumble zoom down. Shall we have a look at that? Let's have a look at what happens if we do that. Tumble zoom down. It happens quite quickly, so we're gonna yeah. Actually, I'm fine with it happening. You know, with it doing this transition quite quickly, and it will just do the same backwards to sort of go out. Okay, so do exactly the same. Tumble down, but it'll backwards to go out at the end of that minute. So during the main sort of video, nothing's going to happen with it, so we can animate it. We can animate it in a little while. Before we go on and animate it, we're just going to change this text a little bit. Now on this text, you can see that it's already self-lit, so there's lighting already applied to it. So we're not going to mess about with any lighting when we come to the lighting parts. We're just going to leave the lighting as it is, and we're going to try and keep this really basic, but effective also. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is go to my text here, and change my text to the text that I desire. I've changed it there, and then what I'm going to do is, if you want to change the font, obviously you change the font. You just select the font, whichever font it is, you change the size of the font, the alignment, and in the advanced, it just changes the line spacing, so how close the text is together. Well, I'm happy with everything as it is at the moment. All I'm going to do is change the depth of my 3D and I'm going to change it to 60. So type in 60, press enter, and then the you can see this 3D here is quite thick now. I really don't want it that thick, so I'm going to go 40, and a lot of it is trial and error. So let's go 40, and I'm a lot happier with this text. Where do I want the depth direction? Well, I want it backwards, but again, you can mess around with, and you will see the what happens to the text when you change the depth direction. Actually, no, I don't want it backwards. I just want it centered. It doesn't really do too much of a difference. The weight is just the thickness of the text. So if I dragged the weight up a little bit, you will see the text gets thicker and gets thicker. Well, I'm happy with how the text is as it is, so I'm just going to leave it on 0 and press enter. And then the front edge bevel. So on here you will have a bevel on the edge, and I'm just going to change that bevel to be concave. So it just adds a little bit, and you can see here just on the edge of this text, it just adds a little bit of detail to the text, and you'll see more when I add colors. We could change the edge size, but I don't want to change the edge size, and really a lot of it is down to personal preference. The material, at the moment I've got it on single. You can have it on multiple, and that is sort of going to be, when you mess around with the colors, it's going to be sort of like a linear sort of change if you changed it to multiple colors. So like a gradient. The substance, plastic. Let's go for a metal, but just to some of the fabrics are quite nice. Some of the new fabrics. This this sort of denim is quite cool. But yeah, I'm going to go for a metal because I want a little bit more of a professional feel. And then here on the drop down where it says aluminium, let's have a look at chrome. Chrome's quite nice. It's got some quite nice lighting, and you'll notice the lighting is up here, and we can go show and hide, and we can change the lighting to where we want the lighting to be. But at the moment it's just on standard, and that is very general, so that's quite a nice lighting effect when it's like that. And you can see the effects if you change the lighting. You'll see the effects it has as you change the lighting. So if you want to change the lighting, but for me, I'm just going to leave it on medium center, because that's, it's fine. So I've got my substance on metal. Choose your substance. I've got on chrome. The shininess, I'm gonna crank this up to 96. Press enter, and it just makes it a little bit more shiny, as you would expect. Thickness is on 100%. It doesn't need to glow. Doesn't need to drop shadow. So we're just going to leave it as it is. So at the moment, my text, the way it will look, will come in like so. It will just sit right there, not do a thing, until we get over here, and then it will go out. So now, obviously we don't want it to be sat in the center the whole time, because we're going to want to change it from our intro, like so, into our logo while it's sat here doing nothing. So yeah, let's move on and do that. Okay, like I said, we're going to move on to now. Let's animate our logo a little bit while it's just sat in the corner of our screen doing nothing. I know it's in the middle at the moment. We'll change it to the corner in a second. So we're going to go over here to our text, where we selected our text. I'm going to go to this effects browser right here. I'm going to select effects, and then we're going to there's a few that we could choose. You could choose bad TV, but I'm just going to use just for ease, I'm going to use flashing. Right, so I'm going to drag this flashing onto this basic 3D. So right away it will flash from the start. It will keep flashing, which you could add on your intro if you like. So it's come in, we've used it as the intro, it's flashed there. Maybe we want to turn down the flashing a little bit. So what we need to do is go to our video, and here's the flashing right here. So if I turned it off, it would stop flashing, just a little blue button. So I've turned it back on, and I've dragged the intensity down to just around 50%. So now when it flashes, it's just going to be 50%. That even might be a little bit too much as well. So let's turn it down again to around 26. Let's have a look what's going on there. A little bit better. Although I would still turn it down a little bit more, down to 10. Still more. 2.7. Okay, that's okay. And then I'll keyframe that there. So I've gone to my intensity and I've pressed this little keyframe right there. So about here is where we're going to move it down. So I'll move the keyframe up to around just another second or so, and then I've turned this intensity right down to 0. So now we've got this on 0. So our intro comes in, the flashing turns down to 0, and then what we're going to do, we're going to move this to a different position. Okay, and you could move it via these little buttons here, like so. But I'm not going to do that. The way I'm going to do it, I'm going to select this little button right here, this transform button, and then I'm going to drag in my timeline where I want my sort of intro to stop, if you like, and my logo to begin, so for it to get smaller. And it's going to be around here. I'm going to click keyframe on that. I'm going to move my timeline up just a couple of split seconds. I'm going to make my text smaller by grabbing these corners like so, and drag these corners. Then I'm going to drag my text down into the corner where I want it to be. Okay. Then I'm going to click done. So that is me now done. So my intro will be like so. My logo will move down into the corner. So now I've got a branded logo. Now every so often I'm going to want this flashing to start again, just to remind people that that's my logo or that's my brand, and it is there. So it's an animated type of brand. So I'm going to drag up in my timeline. I'm going to click my keyframe button on my flash intensity, little plus button like so, and drag up a little bit more in my timeline. Drag the intensity up just a little bit, not too much. Drag up a little bit more in my timeline and drag the intensity back down. And every so often, keyframe, drag the intensity up, move along in my timeline, drag the intensity back down. Move up in my timeline, keyframe, remember the keyframe before, move up a little bit more, then move the intensity, move up a little bit more, drag the intensity down, and then as soon as I move this timeline, the keyframe will deselect itself, you see. So that's roughly where I want to go with that. And now I'm going to sort of come out and do an outro, if you like. So about here, towards the end of my timeline, I'm going to click the transform button again. I'm going to keyframe it. Little keyframe up here. I'm going to move up in my timeline. Sorry, I'm doing a few things at once with my Mac, so it's quite memory extensive, using 3D text, FCPX, recording, and downloading updates. And then I'm going to drag it a little bit bigger, like so. Then as I move up in my timeline, the outro will kick in. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Excellent. Now all we need to do is to make my main video clip tune in nicely, or nice and work nicely with my intro, into my logo, into my outro. So I'm going to highlight it, press V to activate it again. But what I'm going to do with it selected, I'm going to go to my opacity and drag it right down. Okay, then I'm going to click keyframe while my text is still on my screen. I'm going to move along. When my text starts dropping out of my screen like so, I'm going to bring the opacity back up and it will auto keyframe itself. Okay, just going to click done to get rid of these little handles around the outside. So now this will look quite nice. As it goes away, then my video starts. And all I'm going to do is reverse what I've just done for the video going out. So click keyframe while it's at its full intensity, and as this comes in, I'm then going to turn the opacity down so the video fades out and it looks a bit like so. Okay, so then you go into your outro, put some music over the top of it, and it's really simple. So this has helped you out. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any issues, any dramas, please drop a comment, let me know. Speak to you soon. Bye.